This is Stellar Blade. We're here on PlayStation 5. Be sure to like the video. Subscribing is great as well. So this is a post-apocalyptic adventure that follows the adventure of, well, Eve as she's dropped into this dangerous situation on a post-apocalyptic destroyed Earth. And you are, well, attempting to fight for humanity, but there's always something deeper, darker, and more mysterious going on in the backdrop. Now, this is a game where I initially checked out the demo and I was like, oh, this is fun, this is really cool, this is a great production value, design, everything like that. But I didn't realize just how awesome this game actually was until I went in and played it. This is actually remarkably well put together and a ton of fun to play. It's actually probably going to be one of my favorite games of the year, and I just absolutely fell in love with what this game has to offer in terms of design, atmosphere, and just scale. It's got a great character, it's got a great cast of characters that support her, it's got a really interesting selection of levels, a nice set of challenge, design, and intricacy to it that I just absolutely loved. Now, this game has some difficulty to it. I wasn't prepared for the, I guess you would say, a little bit Souls-like style that it has going on, as there are elements where, like, you go to a camp in order to, like, rest and get back your potions and your stats and everything like that, and then the enemies respawn. It's kind of like a leveling system in that regard, where you are attempting to improve yourself as you go back into, sections over and over again. So with that, I would personally recommend playing on story mode. There is normal mode, and then there's story mode. So story mode, it's just a lot easier to play, and I find a lot more fun, but there's still quite a bit of challenge to it, and the action assist is something that is very helpful for doing things. Now, I think I could have pretty easily, not easily, I could have definitely handled running through this on normal mode, but just for actually trying to get this done in a timely manner for sure, normal mode was kind of a little brutal for me. But I think if you take the time to sit there, you grind, you build up your stats, everything like that, it's actually not too bad. I've noticed that too on story mode, that I've become quite powerful and I'm able to handle the more difficult bosses very effectively, and it's just a great time. It really is, seriously. Like, normal mode for those more intense players, and story mode, I would say, if you do want to have a more relaxed, easygoing time, that is your option. But neither are necessarily simple to play, and neither don't come without their challenges. So I thought I would just kind of dive into that. You can adjust your ponytail length, so you can have short or long, which is kind of cool, and there are some character customization options you can earn as you continue to play and adventure and explore. So let's talk about the visual settings. So we were showing you balance mode. So balance mode is like up to a 4K resolution. It's more like 1440p, 60 FPS. This is the mode to play. This is the one I recommend highly. And there's HDR options. If you can have HDR on, you can adjust everything like that. Then there is the prioritize performance. So prioritize performance is 1440p at 60 FPS. It is perfectly fine, perfectly fluid, smooth, no dips at all. Honestly, though, I was playing balance basically the entire game, and I had no performance issues to think of, or even see or notice. But if you want to, this mode is here if you want perfect fluidity, but balance mode is the mode, honestly, for this game. Then there is the prioritize resolution. So this mode is 4K 30 FPS. That's what you're getting here. So this is like the best picture quality. This game kind of maxed out in terms of like aesthetics and design. It does look a lot better, like higher quality and everything like that. And the game itself really does seem to deploy this, like, I say cinematic, like, film grain effect to it, which I think actually really does help the style and help the visuals of it. Like, this is a true current gen game. This is actually one of the most visually impressive games I've seen this generation, and that only makes the experience that much better. So honestly, balance mode. You get a good quality in terms of resolution, you get a good frame rate, which is important for this game where it's fast-paced and action-packed. You're probably wondering why I'm showing off the initial area, and that's because I don't want to spoil anything for you. I don't want the game to be spoiled. I thought of like showing off some different areas, but for me, this was the most effective way to show you the game and not spoil anything to the best of my ability. So there's the display options, motion blur, camera shake, you got a bunch of accessibility options, and yeah, that's kind of the setup here. High contrast mode, adaptive trigger options, QTE auto success, so that can help a lot too if you're struggling. I never used it, but I thought I might as well highlight it here in the graphical options. So now that we got that out of the way, let's talk about the game. So the story here is Eve is sent down. She's part of this like group. You're like an airborne squad, and you are attempting to, well, basically fight these alpha creatures. You're not exactly given the best of context in that regard. There's some traumatic stuff that happens, and she's kind of left by herself until she runs into an individual or two. And from there, the story really opens up, where she is attempting to fight for people that she comes across, fight for characters that she interacts with. It's really, really quite interesting. And then, of course, there is a deeper sense of mystery, as there always is with these, I guess you would say, post-apocalyptic games, right? There's always, you know, what happened to the world, what are we doing to solve these problems, and then going into some creepy and interesting areas in order to try to, I guess you would say, figure out what happened, you know, in regards to humanity and the creatures and everything like that. There is a good sense of mystery here. I would say for me, I did kind of, like, I guess the story pretty early on, but I still found this to be a really enjoyable narrative. There are some mystery elements that were kind of fun little twists and turns along the way. And I really liked what they designed here. I thought this was a very well set up game, and it's just very interesting in gameplay regards. So a lot of the game is kind of based around the idea of, again, where I was saying kind of that Dark Souls-like thing, but it is also a bit of a traditional role-playing kind of game, where you are moving through areas that are kind of linear, and then you're sort of wrapping back around as you open up new areas and explore different places. It's really, really quite interesting. Always little surprise guys sneaking attack at you, eh? I'm very overpowered for these creatures too. But you're building yourself up, your stats, and you're opening new areas for you to progress and explore. And it's just got like this great sense of like somber elements to it. And normally there's like music playing too, but I've turned that off just in case there's any issues. I actually don't think there would be. But it's just this really nice kind of light, easygoing kind of music that really carries the atmosphere as you go to these different places. And you really do get to visit some unique locales. Like, this is a destroyed kind of city area, but there's also like vast deserts, forgotten human remnants, weird ancient underground facilities where the game kind of turns into a shooter, which is a bit odd. And, but actually I really like the shooting because you got this nice tip. If you hold down on the D-pad, it actually opens up different types of ammo for you to use. Rockets and everything like that. Kind of helpful. So you will be exploring just these different biomes and locations with very reactive environments. Like, you can kind of break stuff and move stuff, and there's creatures within them. But the game isn't all linear. You know, I say, oh, it's like a linear experience, and like it can be at times as you're moving through story stuff. But there are areas that are free and open that allow you to explore them and figure out the challenges within, which I think is really quite interesting. So you'll have side missions and activities that will allow you to perhaps adjust how everything kind of wraps up, if that makes sense. And it's just got this really neat sense of progression, and you can really spend extra time helping out people and things that you see, and there's a lot to do in this world. There really is, like, a lot to do. Oh, wow, I can't believe that's not open. I should have opened that on the way. Anyways, yeah, no, there really is just tons of, like, side activities and adventures and challenges and little hidden things, and you'll find stuff, items that help you craft and become more powerful. Items that you can buy at little stores, you know, grenades or extra attachments, and and you can personalize your character too. Oh, that health boost is really helpful. So you can get different types of like exospines or new gear unlocks, or you can have a variety of different costume options for your character. I really love the daily mascot one. It's just nice and kind of cozy, and I mean, I think it really shows off things nicely. But you know, that's all, you know. And then you can customize the appearance of like your squad, and yeah, it's neat. Like the levels, they all make sense, and sometimes you're doing some little puzzle things, and the puzzle things might take a second, but they're all pretty logical, and they all flow pretty well. And as I said, it's just a really, really well put together game. I love the narrative, I love the characters, I love the sense of challenge. You get crazy bosses. It kind of feels a bit like a modern take, like kind of Bayonetta almost, if that makes sense. If you've played Bayonetta, like in terms of twisted creatures and wild designs and this like lost architectural sense that's just so cool. And I know this is like a rainy, weird place, but it really does show off, I think, some of the best of the game in terms of like the sense of feeling and scale to it. Like it feels like you are in this world where, you know, something happened to humanity and you're coming back to kind of like reclaim stuff to a degree, and it's like a nice cozy adventure, but it's stressful and challenging, and there are tons of monsters and problems and loot and extra kind of collectible things to gather. There's like these soda cans you can find, and your character goes, "Wah!" It's really, really quite entertaining. But the game is constantly evolving itself too. There's always new enemies on every level and every area. They're familiar, but they're different and they're twisted, and they're more twisted the further you go. And there's different ways to take those challenge, like kill them, basically, and tackle those challenges. And it was really quite amazing to explore this game and see what it had to offer. And to take on the challenges, and I absolutely loved it. And it is lengthy. Like, this is a chunky game. Like, I was working through it on the normal, and then it kind of went a little easier because I was like, holy, I gotta, kind of work through this. And depending on your skill level, it'll probably take even longer, but we're talking like tens of hours, like probably 20 plus hours at least doing just like main rushing stuff. Like, this game is impressively lengthy. I really was blown away by how long and how large this was, but it never felt like it was padded out to any degree. Like, I always felt like it was coming up with some sort of new crazy place to take, just some breathtaking locations in this game. And again, I can't spoil things because, well, I don't want to, and I'm not supposed to. But wow, you really get to see some cool sights with some very beautiful visuals. And every part of the game is just filled to the brim with a nice quality level to it that, like, it's reactive, it's filled with particle effects, but it feels like a place where people used to be. Even the more desolate desert locations or the more lost areas, these all feel like locations that humans used to, live in and be in. And it's really interesting to kind of figure out that mystery and, like, what happened, what's going on. Because there's mysteries on top of mysteries. And some of it, to a degree, it's like, oh, it's your post-apocalyptic world, whatnot. They follow certain tropes and everything like that. But I loved the characters. I loved how great everything looked. It was all very smooth and aesthetically pleasing, and you get to do these crazy unleash moves upon enemies when you do some crazy like boss battles, and it's just such a visual treat. And I loved seeing this character just kind of evolve as an individual that was a little, I want to say almost fragile when things kind of got started, and then she becomes ever more confident and capable as the story progresses. And it's just really interesting as you yourself feel that level kind of bump up, because it was really, really difficult. And it was only through, battling and trying to survive that I was able to, like, really kind of become more powerful. And I felt that sense of progression. I felt that sense of getting new skills, new talents, new abilities, new things for me to do as I was going along and fighting. And then going off and, breaking down that extra path just to find some new items and things that could make me more powerful. It's a game that is fulfilling in the sense, like, the more you go off the beaten path, the more you benefit, the more tools you get, the more access to things you'll have. And it just really is quite wonderful to actually feel that sense of, like, it's worth it to go off the path and see something new. It's worth it to go an adventure. And just, again, from a narrative standpoint, a gameplay standpoint, it's a pretty perfect experience. I really liked it. And if you know me, I'm not huge on, like, the Dark Souls-esque kind of things. And this isn't full Dark Souls. It's an adventure kind of game, right? Like, you go in. It's got a difficulty edge to it. It is really challenging. And I normally am not, like, huge into that type of gameplay because it can be a little rough, but no, I really just loved what this had to offer. It's nice to have a character that, like, she's very aesthetically pleasing. I will definitely say that. It's refreshing to have a character like this again. But there's more to the character than just that. Like, there's personality, there's layers, there's a connection to her and battling in this greater world. And there's all these unique abilities and stuff that she unleashes, and it's interesting to see that character journey. Again, from someone that's like a little bit more timid to confident, knowing her mission, well, trying to figure out what was happening and everything like that. Challenging beliefs, but fighting off all of these crazy creatures, dealing with all these wild twists and turns, and I thought it was great. It really genuinely was such a pleasant surprise. Like, every part of this game is just kind of filled to the brim with detail and love and care. And, this area itself is kind of more linear than other spaces in the game. But there are more open areas. And like I said, it feels more like a traditional RPG game where it's sort of like it's open, but it's kind of linear, but you can go off and do things, find secrets. And some of the spaces are a little bit more free, too, for you to do different challenges. And I love all the different weird characters you can kind of meet, and there's all these little personal stories and whatnot that connect the individuals of this lost, kind of desolate world. And I think it's such a great journey. It really is one of those true showcases of, like, what the current generation can actually do. Like, we've got multiple graphics modes that actually, like, showcase fidelity in such an impressive way. Like, I think this game looks absolutely stunning, from the character design to the world design to the aesthetics to the level of quality and detail and fidelity in every single area. Like, there's so many unique spaces that you get to visit, and I wish I could kind of show them off to you, and maybe someday we'll revisit this for another review at some point down the road, and I can kind of really open things up and present stuff, but, probably like a PS5 Pro or PS6 or something down the road. But this is a great game. This is honestly not a game you would want to miss out on in this generation, because it's just so well put together. I love the craftsmanship, the level of detail, the fidelity in every scene. It just comes together in such a satisfying way. And yeah, you know what? Some bits of it were a little frustrating, some bits were a little hardcore. Some of the puzzles you gotta, like, kind of be like, oh, this part of the game is a little, challenging me a bit more than usual, or, the parkouring stuff, but every area was different. Every area was unique. There was always new challenges. Even if it was something that was familiar in terms of layout or setup, it felt fresh and it felt awesome. And I love every little bit of this game. I think it's absolutely amazing, and a perfect current gen showcase for PlayStation 5. and an absolutely must-play game. I think they just nailed this. Its Stellar Blade is truly a stellar offering. Ho ho! Bet you didn't see that coming, eh?